two players who held 80% of market share were Similac and Infamil. So for everyone who wanted to provide a better formula option, right? I'm not eating corn syrup. Why would I give that to my baby? I want better for you products. I'm eating organic. How can there not be a single option here? We were all importing formula through the black market in Europe. And I remember this moment where I had my husband drive to some stranger's house and buy infant formula out of a garage and going, what am I doing? How is this realistically what I think is the safe option to do? And it was like kismet because I met Laura and she was European and was saying, what is going on here? We have to be able to find a better way to start an American made, domestically produced infant formula. The US has some of the highest organic standards in the world. Why in the world? And the strictest dairy standards in the world. Why are we doing this? And it really felt like an awakening. Like this was the chance to get to build a challenger brand.
Welcome back
to another episode of the Innovate On Purpose podcast,
hosted by Matt Mueller,
best-selling author of The Mindful Innovator and Rethink Retail's top retail expert.
We help retail leaders find clarity so they can grow their businesses purposefully.
We will uncover mindful tips, innovative solutions, and purposeful leadership advice and strategies that you can apply immediately to your retail innovation.
Are you ready to innovate on purpose?
Hey, before we jump into the episode today, I just wanted to say thank you for hitting the play button. You being here fires me up, and I cannot wait to share with you the insights that are going to make a difference in your business. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button and leave a review so I can reach as many retail leaders as possible. They too need to hear this. Okay, let's do it. Hello and welcome to the first episode of 2026. I am super excited to be here today with Sarah Holman of Bobbie. Today we are going to have a really cool conversation around an area that is being disrupted, and that's center aisle, and more specifically in the baby aisle. So today we want to talk about what does it take to actually disrupt, because it can be really challenging in these categories that have lived on forever, to actually get something that is new and to break through with all those big brands that are there. So Sarah, welcome to the show today.
Thanks, Matt, for having me. I'm excited to be here with you.
Yes, me as well. I can't wait to dig into this conversation. But before we even dig into what you're doing at Bobbie, I'd love just for you to give an introduction of a little bit about you.
Sure. So I've been at Bobbie for 6 years in totality, 2 years as an advisor, around 4.5 years full-time, leading our commercial strategy and some other parts of the business. Before that, I was in venture capital. And before that, believe it or not, I was a lawyer, both in-house and at a big law firm. And so I've had a very non-traditional path to get here, but it's been really fun.
That is awesome. What a trajectory to get to Chief Commercial Officer at Bobbie. It's such a... How did you make that transition? How did that happen?
Well, I'll hop around a little bit. It started out with going to law school, really having wanted to be a chef, enrolling in culinary school, dropping out, going to law school instead. And I went and worked at a big law firm, and I was really lucky to have leadership like me, essentially. And I got to work on a lot of really cool cases and work with a lot of really big CPG players and help them. And it became very evident that my voice in the room tended to be more in alignment with marketing and brand and development of these businesses versus just a legal perspective. I later went in-house to a couple of different companies, and the same thing started happening. And eventually it became glaringly obvious to me that I was really meant to be an operator and help build businesses. So I restarted my career. I joined a venture capital firm in Palo Alto, and I worked my way up. And essentially, while I got to do that, I was helping companies within the portfolio that we had made investments in scale, thinking about business development, revenue, relationship building, and potentially exit. And during that time, I became a mother, and I had my first daughter, and I met our founder of Bobbie, and she and I really connected, and I joined her as one of her advisors in the early days of ideation, product development, and launch. And then a few years in, after I had my second daughter, who became a Bobbie baby, I was just really excited to join the team full time. So I joined and subsequently became our chief commercial officer. And it's been the wildest, greatest ride.
It must be a really interesting ride to be there basically from the start, the inception of it, and to be in the role that you're in now. Like when you first met the founder of Bobbie, like what really drew you to the work that she was doing?
We were all having a really similar experience. And it was very eye opening to me because it was the first time where I had truly, as a consumer, felt a real breakdown, which I'll talk to you about in a second, and then met someone who was experiencing something identical. And once I opened my eyes, was realizing lots of moms were realizing or experiencing the same issue and realizing she was onto something and she had the gumption to be able to change it. So if you think back to 2016, 2017, the only two players that existed in infant formula were Enfamil and Similac. And they were owned, well, and Gerber, and they were owned by Abbott and Reckitt, or Mead Johnson at that point, but Reckitt, and then Nestle. Really, though, the two players who held 80% of market share were Similac and Enfamil. So for everyone who wanted to provide a better formula option, right? I'm not eating corn syrup. Why would I give that to my baby? I want better for you products. I'm eating organic. How can there not be a single option here? We were all importing formula through the black market in Europe. And I remember this moment where I had my husband drive to some stranger's house and buy infant formula out of a garage and going, what am I doing? How is this realistically what I think is the safe option to do? And it was really, it
Wow.
was like kismet because I met Laura and she was European and was saying, what is going on here? We have to be able to find a better way to start an American made, domestically produced infant formula. You know, the US has some of the highest organic standards in the world. Why in the world? And the strictest dairy
Wow.
standards in the world.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this? And it really felt like an awakening. Like, this was the chance to get to build a challenger brand where I was the consumer, I was living the experience, and I got to get my hands in and help build a solution for all of us.
But what an aha moment when you're going into someone's garage to buy a black market baby formula. That is
I mean, in
crazy.
hindsight, what in
Yeah.
God's name was I thinking?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's better than the other options, I guess, right? So just like it's amazing that the current aisle, back then that was it. It was owned by three huge players,
Yeah.
and there was nothing new coming in, all the same because there was no reason to change.
There was no reason to change. And when you think about how formula had historically been treated, until Bobbie, it truly was treated as sort of a commodity. Like the center aisle was never invested in, the category wasn't invested in. It was just flowing off, right? You go to the hospital, you have a baby, you get a sample, you go to your doctor, you get a sample. That's it, right? And there was no one, the standards hadn't changed in decades. There was no evaluation of ingredient. And to be fair, why would they, right? There was no motivating factor to have them look at the ingredients and go, oh, we should use lactose instead of corn syrup or what have you. And so when we were really, ideating and thinking about what Bobbie could be, it was what are the various pain points? And the pain points in the category is this is a terrible experience when you're buying formula.
Hmm.
And there is a lot of shame and stigma around being a mom that uses formula in this country. So, how could we emotionally connect? But also, in order to do that, you have to have a product that people are proud to feed their baby. You can't create a culture of confidence without a product that people feel comfortable and excited to feed their baby. And so, getting to design the dream state product rooted in this idea that we don't have formulations, we have recipes. This is a food product. It's the sole nutrition for a baby their first year of life. To build that trust and product and emotional connection to the consumer, it was such a special experience and continues to be that.
Yeah. I'm kind of like blown away with the fact that there's corn syrup in baby formula. I did not realize that. I
Yeah.
gave baby formula to my baby and now I feel so guilty about it.
You shouldn't, because at the end of the day, here's the thing. These formulas have been growing babies for a really long time, and they've been doing it safely. And I have a lot of respect for the clinical studies and the innovation that happened at various points in time to create safe infant formula. So I would tell anyone, don't feel guilty for the choices you're making. Whatever your feeding journey, whatever you decide you want to feed your baby, whatever the ingredients. And parents deserve optionality for if they don't want to choose that. And that's okay too. And a lot of people I speak to are choosing a lot of different products. And I think whatever works for your baby, that's fantastic. And I don't believe in judging ingredients. I just wanted to be a part of something that appealed to consumers like me who felt like we wanted a product and we couldn't find it on shelf.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and definitely, I think it's awesome that you're catering to a particular persona where it's like this is what really matters, and it's not about shame or judgment of other personas. And it's just like, okay, well, what is our solution? The ones that want something a little bit more with better ingredients or different ingredients.
Yeah. And it's the last category I would say that was really touched by Better For You. And that started with Bobbie.
Yeah.
So, we saw it in everything. We've seen it in soda and crackers and fruit snacks and every single area of the consumer journey. We've seen Better For You products rise up.
Hmm.
Infant formula was the last one. And it goes back to how critical this product is, the scientific rigor that has to go into it, the quality standards, the manufacturing. This is an FDA regulated product. So it's not easy to break into
Hmm.
the industry. And it certainly it wasn't easy as a small team of moms.
Yeah. So, do you believe like that's like the biggest hurdle for disruption was actually the process of having to go through all the certifications?
Absolutely. It was incredibly challenging and remains incredibly challenging. And I would say, as it should be, because
Hmm.
this is a product that is the sole source of nutrition for an infant during one of their most vulnerable time periods. And you need to make sure that the people who are producing the product and selling the product are doing it that meet standards to keep our babies safe. And I'll tell you, as a mother who is not only feeding my own child, Bobbie, and working at this company, every time I would hold that bottle 7, 8 times a day and feed her, I would go, thank God for this product because I know the decisions we're making. I know the integrity with which we're acting, and it felt really, really good.
So nice.
Yeah.
Cool. So amazing journey. You've been there at Bobby for 6 years. I'm curious, like, what was like in the early days? What was like one of the biggest learnings that you gained in upstarting this D2C company?
Gosh, there were so many. It is really interesting and challenging to come in as a new brand, whether it's through retail, building consumer trust, when an entire system has supported only two players being in market. From hospitals to healthcare providers to retailers, it had always ever only been Enfamil and Similac. So to not just be building a brand, but to be proving that this was a quality, safe, trustworthy brand, that parents could trust us to feed their babies was so big. It was such a big hurdle that we had to go through. And I remember, when we were having some early conversations with retailers, it was really interesting to think about how, as this small D2C only, mom founded and led brand, we were going to go up against truly industry giants. And you think about the companies behind the brands. They're the biggest pharmaceutical companies in the world. And here we were, just a handful of us going, we deserve to be on shelf next to them because we have a product that consumers want. So it was challenging, and it was also really exciting to see the retailer receptivity and watching how we were growing and the viral nature of the word of mouth of mothers coming to retailers, coming to physicians, coming to hospitals and going, do you sell Bobbie? Where's Bobbie located? We want to buy Bobbie. And seeing how it really was the consumer demanding that they wanted these products on shelf led to really interesting conversations with a lot of retailers in the early days.
Wow, that is so awesome. So you had like these advocates that were really helping get kind of just disperse the need for the change within the category.
Yeah. I mean, the most powerful thing
Hmm.
is what mom says. Mom moms have a lot of influence,
Yeah.
for other parents and mothers. And what we were seeing was that so many of the babies who were consuming Bobbie were doing so well on it that their parents were becoming megaphones for the brand.
Wow. So how did you like cultivate that base of mothers in the beginning?
It was really through community and trust building. And I will say, above all else, we are a company that believes you should take care of your consumers. And time again, in our business decisions, we have made the choice to take care of our customers, even if that meant trading off growth potentials or quick revenue hits. We've always chosen the customer. And I think that providing a quality product that's safe and being there for your customer will inevitably create more momentum and success.
Yeah, I always believe in like you have to put the consumer first. And I know it's kind of cliche, but like really understanding their needs and spending time with them is so important. And just to get that feedback and to really understand how do they use your product. And a lot of times, especially like the bigger players, they just, copy paste and get it into market and don't really think about that full experience.
I think that the other thing that was really different in how we've approached Bobbie and building the company are twofold. One, we are very authentic in our storytelling and the way that we market, and we're meeting parents where they are, and we're putting data and education around emotion. The second is that we have a really big advocacy arm within the business. And something that you do not see these days are private companies, right? Are also really dedicated to doing good. And I say that, we have this arm of the business called Bobbie for Change. When SNAP benefits were in question over the last handful of months, it took us less than 48 hours as a business to ship out nearly $1 million of formula to food banks and to slash our prices to make product available for the families that were in need. We have done that time and time and time again throughout the history of this company. We found out that breast cancer survivors and previvors didn't get access to formula that was covered, but they got a breast pump. We created a program with the breasties to make sure that they didn't have to pay for infant formula. I mean, you look at all these different gaps that we've identified that hurt our hearts as mothers, and we spring into action. And I think when you look at the next wave of companies that are coming, this blending of advocacy, of values sits next to and is really critical for the customer when she's choosing what brand she wants to be a part of.
Yeah, that's so big, and like it's definitely a huge trend that we've been seeing over the last maybe like 10 years. Is that social responsibility and having to be more than just a brand that sells product, but to be active in the community and to be a part of a cause,
Yes.
because that's where you're going to really find those loyalists.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Is there like a certain set of principles that Bobby follows to make sure that you stay on brand and that you stay focused?
Yeah, our Bobbie for Change arm is actually a central core part of our business. So it's really rooted back to what are the issues that modern parents are facing at any given time. So at the inception of the company, right, it was okay, anyone who wants a better for you product has to import it through a black market. We got to be able to produce a product that's better than that. In 2022, during the greatest infant formula shortage that we had ever experienced in this country, we realized there were not enough players that were investing in domestic production, in making America a place where infant formula production could be the best in the world. So we went out and we raised money and we bought the newest built facility in the United States and vertically integrated. Throughout the process, we're looking at what's going on, what are we experiencing as parents, and how do we inside of this company get to mobilize and act against it to make sure that we're serving parents in the way that they deserve to be served.
That's amazing. Now, like, I want to like kind of shift gears a little bit here. So, thinking about Bobby as a direct to consumer company, like we actually were just talking before we started the show about like Expo West and being able to watch the brands go from like, just being born into all of a sudden, popping up into markets and then into retailers to where you're actually walking by them on a shelf
Yeah.
in a store. It's just, it's so cool to be able to see that, to go into those retail locations. I mean, I think any brand aspires to get on the shelf. To see your product on the shelf is such a great experience.
Yeah.
That's something that you guys are doing now. Like, tell me about that experience going from a D2C brand into retail. I know we talked a little bit about it with just having your consumers, be your advocates. But I'm sure it's still not easy, right?
No, it's really challenging. When you are a direct to consumer brand and you're digitally native, that's a really different set of competencies, of ways that you engage with the customer than when you go to retail, where there's a little bit of a disconnect. And it's very challenging to go from being direct to consumer to omni-channel. And the way I really talk about it is there are two chapters. There's 0 to 1, which is getting your foot in the door and launching. And then there's 1 to 2, and that's scaling. That's operational excellence. It's being able to grow at scale. It's bringing net new people consistently. It's velocities. It's all these things that must be true in order to grow your business. But that transition is really painful for a lot of companies, from back of house fulfillment and systems and the talent you need, through what it means to be sending mass amounts of product into a retailer and then going, I guess we're hoping for the best that it's going to sell. And the one thing I've been exceptionally bullish on is getting on shelf is not the hard part. Creating a community in aisle, that's where the work is. Creating a brand that can sit on a shelf in a sea of products and can speak to someone in the moment of their decision. I'll give you an example of that. One of the data points that we saw early on at Bobbie and that we experienced as parents was the industry had historically talked to women saying, you're either a breastfeeding mom or you're a formula mom. Well, that's not true. 73% of parents that are using infant formula are actually combination feeding. They're breastfeeding and they're infant formula feeding. And this is something that we really brought into the zeitgeist through a big campaign with Ashley Graham years ago. And we were talking about it. It was receiving a lot of receptivity. I went to Target and we sat down and we said, what if we created the first ever cross-merchandised end cap? And we brought a digital experience and an in-store experience. And it was Bobbie, a bottle company, and a breast pump company. Parents deserve to be seen and felt. We created that. It took months to create that. And it was one of the most successful cross-merchandised end caps in the baby category. It speaks, though, to what hasn't historically happened, which is that historically brands have thought that going and being on shelf is enough to build a brand. It's not. You still have to build the brand when you're in the store and connect, especially if you're growing incremental customers versus just cannibalizing your D2C base. You're reintroducing your brand to every single person that's walking that aisle.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. I love the cross merchandise end cap. That's a great insight, and I definitely believe that a lot of brands don't think about just beyond selling their product. Love the first statement that you made there, where it's getting to the shelf is not the oh man, I can't remember exactly how you said it, but I marked the clip because it was amazing when you said it. I'm going to screw it up, but getting on the shelf isn't the win. It really is creating that community in the aisle. Community in the aisle. I actually would love to challenge everyone that's listening to think about, how do you create the community in your aisle? And the idea of bringing bottles, breast pumps, and your formula onto one end cap thinks about the full consumer journey, right? It's not just thinking about, hey, I have formula and mothers need it, but you're thinking about them holistically, which is much bigger kind of thinking.
It was really an assumption we had to challenge, though, with the retailers.
Absolutely.
Empathy and education belong in the formula aisle. And if there's ever a brand that was going to do it, it was going to be us. It was going to be this team of moms who had a lived and shared experience with the customer. And we were so fortunate because Target really saw that in us. From the beginning, there was a belief that we were going to change and grow their infant formula category. And now, as their number 4 brand and seeing massive growth year over year, in retail at Bobbie, we're now seeing 100% year over year growth between 24 and 25. We are proving out that that's true. And I think, as brands think about what excellence looks like in retail, big part of building a sustainable omni-channel business is partnerships that are rooted in driving category growth, bringing new eyeballs to the category, talking to them in the specific retailer for why, solving the why behind the consumer. A lot of brands, through their product, through their assortment, they're just shoving products on shelf, and then they're surprised when it doesn't sell. Well, do you know why the customer is there? Do you know why she's shopping at that particular retailer? Do you know what she cares about? Is it price? Is it pack size? Is it flavor? Is it variety? Getting into the thinking there and partnering with the retailers to do that is what can set you up to build a multi-$100 million brand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's probably where most brands struggle is that partnership with retailers and even getting that product to the shelf. So what do you think were like the keys to success when working with Target to get that end cap going? Like what do you think were like the drivers there that made them say, yeah, let's do this?
So for the end cap in particular, I think there was an element of great timing. And I say that because the buyer was also a mother who was going through a similar experience. And she saw the value in what we were saying. For the first time, we had a buyer that was going, yeah, that's exactly what I experienced. And so that meeting of minds was great. Okay. Her aside and how we had to get it approved all the way up was really rooted in a lot of data. And I remember sitting in my office and pulling so much data around what I called the zigzag of doom, which is a mom goes into this aisle and then she has to find the other product and then she ping pongs through the entire store. And I remember I went to Target and I drew out an entire map of the POG. I went from place to place, mapping how long it took, walking out the door. I did it with my baby. My baby started crying. I forgot 2 of the products. And I said, this is the experience. I've
Hmm.
walked out the door and I couldn't find 2 of the products I needed. So now I have to go to another retailer or buy online, and you've lost my full value as a customer because you didn't make it easy for me. And it's not that complicated. It's actually merchandising. We just have to agree with a bunch of buyers that these products together will sell better when they're all positioned together.
Yeah.
That's not actually easy work. It takes
No.
months and months and data and storytelling, but being rooted in education and rooted in data is critical when you are trying to do something that is truly innovative and unique and that the retailer hasn't done before.
Totally agree. But I think that your first point has to come first, which makes total sense. That you have to get your first stakeholder to believe in that pain point, right? I think that is huge. Like when I
Absolutely.
built out the Deli of the Future concepts, it was making sure that the executives believed in these insights that yes, this is a problem. When you go to the deli, it is a crappy experience that can relate to like the DMV. Yeah, I am not going to shop here.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah, it came through on every
You
single
get your
consumer
ticket
research.
and you wait in line. That's a
Yeah,
great
that's it.
analogy.
Yeah, and when we actually walk stores with consumers, they would say that over and over again. Yes, this is like the DMV. So, is that an experience you want in your store? But like, once you're able to get the executives to like kind of start shaking their heads, like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. That's when all of a sudden you can have that conversation and talk about the data. In fact, I use this one acronym called NASA, where it's all about creating the need. After you get to the need, it's about getting the acceptance that there is a need. So, you state the need, get them to shake their head yes,
Mhm.
then you talk about the solution, the S, and then they start to accept the solution because they already been set up with it. So it's a need, accept, solution, accept. You
I
can't go
love
any other
that.
way, and that's exactly what you're using, Sarah. So it's perfect.
I like that framework. It's a lot less wordy than mine. NASA. I'm gonna start to use that. I'll give you credit.
All
It's
right, awesome.
you're exactly right because at the end of the day, we are all in the business of serving consumers and customers. And we have to agree that what we're solving is the same problem.
Yeah,
And if you can't align on that, then you're never going to get your vision, let alone when you're a small brand or a D2C brand that's attempting to break into retail. If the retailer doesn't see the same problem that you're seeing, they're not going to lean in with you.
yeah.
So I fully agree.
No, I think we've given some really great insights here on how to get to that center aisle and to disrupt it. For so all of your challenger brands is possible. Look what Sarah is doing with Bobbie. Absolutely amazing work that you're doing there. As you think about 2026, what are some of the biggest things that you're looking to tackle next year here?
So it's really scale for us. We have now proven out that we do really well in retail and we're continuing to grow as a direct to consumer brand. The next phase is we're vertically integrated. How do we offer an incredibly high quality product and show up with accessibility. And that means a couple of things to me. Parents deserve options where they want to shop. Accessibility is giving the customer the option to buy what she wants, where she wants, when she wants it. And when we can unlock those things, magic happens. I'll give you an example. We are now the #1 infant formula brand at Whole Foods, and we got to that place in less than 6 months. And that was because we narrowed in on what does it mean to always be in stock and available when she is grocery shopping with the SKUs that this type of consumer wants in that grocery store. Similar to Target is, how are we thinking about what the mom is experiencing in an aisle? How are we showing up with consistency of supply, with operational reliability, and with an incredible quality product that she gets to access whenever she wants it? So I really think the next chapter for Bobbie as an omni-channel brand is operational excellence. And it's being that key partner to each of our retailers who know that they can pick up the phone and reach out to us and we can help them. And that's really a testament to the work that we've done over the last 2 years in terms of buying a factory and integrating that into our supply chain.
Yeah. I love the partnership piece of it and helping the retailer understand their consumers. I feel like that's usually a huge gap, is that retailers don't necessarily understand their customers fully. And I think what is interesting about the baby aisle is the lifetime value of that consumer, because families spend more in the grocery store, right? So it's just like, if you're catering to the family and get more families into your store, you're going to win the whole basket, right? So it's a perfect category to be disrupted and to help really drive that next experience. How are you
And
going to, like? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sarah. Sarah.
it's really the last aisle that has gotten investment. So when you look
Hmm.
at big retailers, you look at these celebrity collabs that they've done in home and furnishing and cleaning supplies and electronics, and everything slowly coming into the center of the store has been up leveled. And you go to the formula aisle and you go,
Stale.
someone forgot this. And so the continued work for me and for our brand is, how do we make that a pleasant experience? It's so emotional to go and buy infant formula. Let's bring a little joy, let's bring education, let's bring comfort there, and let's create a destination for people that want to shop for infant formula.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's the category ready to be disrupted, and you guys are doing it. So it's can't wait to see what comes next in the aisle. Sarah, is there anything else that you want to share with the audience before we end the episode today?
I don't think so. I think that's everything. Is there anything you want me to share?
No, I really appreciate all the insights that you have given us. I mean, there's a ton of power in these insights. So I can't thank you enough. I know a lot of brands are going to really benefit from everything that you're mentioning here today. So thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks, Matt, for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. Sarah, that was awesome.
We have made it to the end of another episode. Thank you for tuning in. A couple of things before you go. If you have found value in this episode, I am sure you'll find value in what we have coming up. So please subscribe so you will have access and know when we launch the next episode. Also, leave a review. The more reviews we have, the further our reach becomes, and I truly want this to be heard by as many leaders as possible. Don't hog this all for yourself. I would love to hear your insights on this topic, so meet me on social media at Matt Mueller Innovation on LinkedIn and Instagram. And lastly, if you want to learn more about my story and what I can do for you and your company, go to themindfulinnovator.com. I would love to help you innovate on purpose. Until next time, just remember, bring a level of awareness to each conversation, each observation, each moment, and you can create great change in this world. Thank you.